The star system of Proxima Centaurus was quiet. Too quiet. High Admiral Zexthal stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominance. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display. Something was wrong. The sensor networks at the edge of Imperial space had gone silent 3 cycles ago. Status report, he demanded, his scaled skin shifting from blue to a worried purple. Officer Crenmore approached with a bow. High Admiral, we have restored partial sensor function. The data is concerning. The holographic display flickered and revealed what had made the mighty Galactic Empire's border sensors go quiet. Ships, hundreds of them, of a design never before seen in the known galaxy. Impossible, Zexthal whispered. In 10,000 years of Imperial history, no new spacefaring species had ever approached with such a massive fleet. New species were discovered when Imperial scouts found their primitive worlds, not when they arrived at the Empire's doorstep fully armed. The largest vessel is transmitting a message on all frequencies, sir, said Communications Director Vexna. Her tentacles trembled slightly as she adjusted her equipment. They are broadcasting in perfect Imperial Standard. The command deck fell silent. Imperial Standard was a complex language that took most conquered species decades to master. Play it, ordered Zexthal. A human face appeared on the main screen. The alien had pale skin, dark hair pulled back tightly, and only 2 eyes. It wore a dark uniform with silver markings. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Alliance. We come seeking peaceful relations with the Galactic Empire. We request a diplomatic meeting to discuss trade, borders, and mutual cooperation. We await your response. The message ended. The command deck erupted in confused chatter. Zexthal raised a clawed hand for silence. How do they know our language? He demanded. Science Officer Malthix stepped forward. High Admiral, based on their technology signatures, they appear to have developed faster-than-light travel only 300 years ago. The Empire has never explored their region of space because it was deemed empty of advanced life. Apparently not. So empty, muttered Zexthal. And apparently they have been watching us. The High Admiral paced the deck. The Emperor would need to be informed immediately. This was unprecedented. All new species were supposed to be primitive, easy to conquer or control. These humans had somehow developed in secret and now appeared with a fleet large enough to challenge an Imperial battle group. Sir, said Tactical Officer Brenzar, our sensors detect weapon systems on their vessels, but all are powered down. Their shields are active but not at battle strength. Zexthal nodded slowly. So they come, in peace, but prepared for war. He made his decision. Send a response. Tell them a diplomatic vessel will meet them at the neutral trading station in the Gamma sector. Inform the Emperor's Council immediately. And, he hesitated, mobilize the 3rd and 7th fleets. Position them 1 jump away from Gamma. If these humans have hostile intentions, they will regret discovering the Empire. Admiral Helena Chen ended the transmission and turned to her officers on the bridge of the UEA flagship Horizon. They took the bait, she said with a small smile. They're curious enough to talk but scared enough to bring backup. Commander Jackson nodded. Just as intelligence predicted, the Empire has never encountered a species that didn't need to be uplifted or conquered. They don't know how to react to equals. Chen walked to the star map where hundreds of tiny lights represented the human fleet. What the Empire didn't know was that half of these ships were actually advanced drones, designed to give the impression of a much larger force. Humanity couldn't match the Empire's numbers yet, but they didn't need to. Not with the advantage of surprise and their secret weapon. Deploy the phase teams, Chen ordered. I want our agents in position throughout Imperial territory before the diplomatic meeting begins. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, head of Special Operations, stood from her console. The teams are ready, Admiral. Each operative has lived among Imperial society for years. They understand their assigned species' customs and behaviors. When the signal comes, they'll activate. Chen nodded. Operation Quicksilver has been 20 years in the making. We've studied them, learned their weaknesses, inserted our people deep into their society. The Empire thinks they rule the galaxy because they've never met anyone who thinks differently than they do. She gazed at the Imperial fleet gathering on the long-range sensors. Massive, ordered, and predictable, the Empire had grown comfortable in its power. It expanded through brute force and overwhelming numbers. Humans had learned different lessons. On Earth, they had survived their own wars, their own near extinctions. They understood something the Empire never had to learn: adaptability. The diplomatic team should prepare, Chen said. Grand Vizier Corvex will try to intimidate us. He'll hint at the Empire's power and expect us to be grateful for any scraps they offer. Ambassador Li smiled. I look forward to their faces when we reveal just how much we already know about them. Remember, said Chen, our goal isn't to start a war. It's to make sure they never want one. The Empire freezes when faced with something they don't understand. Let's make sure we remain a puzzle they can't solve. As the flagship approached the meeting point, Chen watched the stars. Humanity had finally reached out beyond their small corner of the galaxy. After centuries of dreaming about alien contact, they had found a vast interstellar empire and discovered it was built on conquest and control. The Empire had never learned to coexist. It only knew how to dominate. They've conquered 100 worlds and 1,000 species, Chen said quietly. But they've never met humans before. And that would make all the difference. The Gamma trading station hung in space like a massive metal flower, its petals opening to form docking bays for ships of all sizes. Built by the Empire 500 years ago, it served as neutral ground for trade negotiations and diplomatic meetings with the Empire's various client races. Today, it would host the most unusual diplomatic meeting in Imperial history. Grand Vizier Corvex stepped off his shuttle, his long ceremonial robes flowing behind him. 8 Imperial guards flanked him, their armor gleaming under the station's lights. Behind them came a group of advisors, scientists, and military officers. The Empire wanted to show its strength and magnificence to these newcomers. Remember, Corvex said to his delegation, these humans must learn their place. They may have technology, but they lack the wisdom of the Empire's 10,000 years. We will offer them protectorate status. It is more than generous. The Imperial delegation entered the grand meeting hall, designed to impress visitors with towering ceilings and ancient artifacts from 100 worlds. Corvex took his place on the raised platform, ready to look down upon the human representatives. The doors on the opposite side opened. The humans entered quietly without ceremony. There were just 5 of them, 3 females and 2 males, dressed in simple dark uniforms with silver trim. They carried no visible weapons. They brought no guards. This was not what Corvex expected. Where was their show of power? Where was their attempt to match Imperial grandeur? Welcome to Gamma Station, the Grand Vizier said, his translator device, ensuring his complex Imperial speech would be understood. I am Grand Vizier Corvex, voice of Emperor Zalvex VI, ruler of the 3 spiral arms, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, protector of— Thank you for meeting with us, Grand Vizier, interrupted the lead human, a female with dark skin and short hair. I am Ambassador Aisha Li of the United Earth Alliance. We appreciate the Empire's willingness to engage in diplomatic talks. Corvex's skin flushed purple with irritation. No one interrupted an Imperial greeting ceremony. You will learn, he said slowly, that the Empire has protocols for such meetings, protocols that have served us for millennia. Ambassador Li smiled. Of course. We have studied your protocols extensively. We simply thought we might save time by focusing on substantive matters. Corvex moved to his seat, motioning for the humans to sit across from him at the long table. Very well. The Emperor, in his wisdom, has decided to offer your species protectorate status within the Empire. This is a generous offer. Most new species require centuries of development before such consideration. The humans exchanged glances that Corvex couldn't read. We appreciate the offer, said Ambassador Li, but we must decline. The United Earth Alliance seeks recognition as a sovereign power and open borders for free trade. The Imperial advisors murmured in shock. No species had ever declined protectorate status. Perhaps you misunderstand, said Corvex, leaning forward. The Empire does not recognize sovereign powers. There is the Empire, and there are those who have not yet joined the Empire. Your species will need at least 300 years of cultural integration before any form of autonomy can be discussed. We understand your position perfectly, said one of the male humans, introducing himself as Science Envoy Patel, but we believe a different relationship would benefit both our peoples. Patel activated a small device and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed Imperial trade routes, military deployments, and resource distribution. Your eastern territories suffer from dilithium shortages, Patel explained. Your southern systems have seen 3 rebellions in the past decade. Your central worlds are experiencing cultural stagnation, and your northern frontier is poorly defended against the void creatures that emerge from the dark nebula every 60 years. The Imperial delegation froze in shock. This was classified information. How could these humans know Imperial secrets? What is the meaning of this? Demanded military advisor Drentox. How did you access Imperial data? Ambassador Lee's expression remained calm. We've been watching the Empire for decades, learning, understanding. We have sources throughout Imperial space. Impossible. Corvex stood, his robe swirling around him. No species can infiltrate the Empire. Yet here we are, said another human female, introducing herself as Security Liaison Chen. We've walked among you for years. Your merchants, your service workers, your transport crews, humans or human allies have been present in all these places. We come with an offer of friendship, Ambassador Lee continued. We can help with your dilithium shortages. We have technology to predict and counter the void creatures. We seek trade, cultural exchange, and mutual respect. Or, Corvex hissed, sensing the implied threat. Or nothing, said Lee. We simply return to our space. But consider what happens when the next void creature emergence occurs without our early warning system. Or when the rebellions in the southern systems learn there is another way besides Imperial rule. Corvex signaled his guards. This meeting is over. You will be detained until the Emperor decides your fate. The Empire does not respond to threats. The guards moved forward, weapons ready. But suddenly, the humans vanished, simply disappeared. From their chairs, alarms blared throughout the station. Intruder alert in sections 12, 37, and 44, announced the station's computer. Find them, Corvex shouted. Lock down all shuttles and docking bays. But it was too late. Reports came in of a small human ship detaching from the station and jumping to faster than light speed before Imperial vessels could intercept. Hours later, as Corvex prepared to report this disaster to the Emperor, every communication device in the Imperial capital began displaying the same message. Detailed schematics of Imperial defensive systems, along with a simple text. Reconsider our offer of friendship. We will contact you again in 3 days. In his private chamber aboard his flagship, Corvex stared at the message in disbelief. What kind of species could penetrate Imperial security so completely? What kind of power had the Empire awakened? For the first time in his long career serving, the Empire Grand Vizier Corvex felt afraid. The Imperial Palace on Zenthra Prime was in chaos. Emperor Zalvex VI sat on his crystal throne, his normally blue scales turned a deep, angry red. Around him, his advisors argued loudly. We must strike now, shouted War Commander Dreltox, pounding, his fist on the table. Destroy these humans before they become a greater threat. With what weapons? Asked Science Director Malthix. They just showed us they know all our defense codes. Who knows what else they've learned? The Emperor raised a clawed hand and the room fell silent. Intelligence Director Velnara, he said, his voice cold. Explain how these humans infiltrated our empire without detection. Velnara stepped forward, her scales pale with fear. Emperor, we have completed our initial assessment. It appears humans have a unique biological advantage. They can adapt their appearance. She activated a holographic display showing images of different alien species, a blue-scaled Zenthi, a four-armed Qualat, even a ridge-backed Vortak. Then each image shifted, revealing a human underneath the disguise. They use a combination of advanced technology and surgical modification, Velnara explained. They can pass as many different species. And they are patient, very patient. Our investigation suggests they have been placing operatives in our territory for at least 50 years. The Emperor's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of deep concern. And their technology? Science Director Malthix stepped forward nervously. Superior in several key areas, Emperor. Their phase-shifting technology alone is beyond our understanding. They can temporarily move their ships outside normal space, making them impossible to track or attack. We have no defense against this. Their weapons? Asked the Emperor. Strangely, we have little data on their offensive capabilities, said War Commander Dreltox. They have shown no aggression. Their ships maintain defensive postures only. This could be a trick to hide their true strength or a weakness. The Emperor turned to Grand Vizier Corvex. And your impression of these humans, Vizier? You met them face to face. Corvex hesitated. They are different, Emperor. Not just physically. They think differently. When I threatened them, they showed no fear. They maintain perfect calm in situations where any normal species would show stress, and they seem to operate without clear hierarchy. The 5 representatives acted as equals with no single leader. Barbarians, muttered an advisor from the back of the room. No, said Corvex sharply. Not barbarians. Something else. Something we have not encountered before. The Emperor stood and walked to the large window overlooking the capital city. For 10,000 years, the Empire had expanded without serious challenge. They conquered primitive species and absorbed them. They defeated advanced species through superior numbers and resources. The pattern never changed. Until now. The Star Forge, the Emperor said quietly. How soon can it be ready? The room went silent. The Star Forge was the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of triggering a targeted supernova. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, both times to end rebellions that threatened to spread. Emperor, said Science Director Malthix carefully, the Star Forge would destroy not just the human fleet but several of our own border systems. If we cannot control these humans, then those systems are already lost to us, the Emperor replied, coldly. Begin preparations quietly. He turned back to his advisors. Meanwhile, we will negotiate. Buy time, learn more about their weaknesses, and mobilize the Grand Fleet. Aboard the human flagship Horizon, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest reports from the phase teams scattered throughout Imperial space. The Emperor has ordered the Star Forge prepared, said Lieutenant Commander Reyes. Just as intelligence predicted, Chen nodded. They always resort to overwhelming force when faced with something they don't understand. Are our teams in position? Yes, Admiral. Operation Quicksilver is ready. We have agents on 12 key Imperial worlds, including 3 on Zenthra Prime itself. Chen studied the star map, where tiny lights represented human operatives embedded throughout the Empire. For 50 years, Earth had been sending its people out, diplomats, scientists, engineers, all trained to blend in, to learn, to prepare. The Empire thinks in terms of fleets and weapons, Chen said. They don't understand that our greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our adaptability. Ambassador Li entered the bridge. The Imperial diplomatic vessel is requesting another meeting. They're buying time, said Chen. Just as we expected. Should we accept? Asked Li. Of course, we need time too. Our phase teams aren't fully in position yet. Chen turned to her communications officer. Accept their request, but this time, we meet on our terms. On the horizon, Commander Jackson looked concerned. Admiral, bringing Imperial officials aboard our flagship is a security risk. No. Chen smiled slightly. It's an opportunity to show them something they've never seen before. What's that? Asked Jackson. A society that doesn't rule through fear. In his private chambers, Emperor Zalvex consulted with his most trusted advisor, an ancient Zenthi named Kelmore who had served 3 emperors. The humans offer peace, said the Emperor. Do you believe them? Kelmore's scales had faded to pale blue with age. I believe they prefer peace, yes, but not submission. That is what troubles you, isn't it? They do not submit as all others have. Bow. Empire cannot allow exceptions, the Emperor said firmly. If these humans remain independent, others will demand the same. Perhaps, said Kelmore. Or perhaps the time has come for the Empire to evolve. 10,000 years is a long time to remain unchanged, Emperor. Zalvex's scales darkened. Careful, old friend. Such talk borders on treason. I speak only of survival, Kelmore replied. These humans have shown they can infiltrate our most secure systems. They know our weaknesses. They could have attacked at any time, yet they offer peace. Is it wise to answer with the Starforge? The Emperor turned away. The decision is made. The Starforge will be our answer if diplomacy fails. The humans will learn what happens to those who challenge the Empire. As the Emperor spoke, a small listening device hidden in the chamber transmitted his words to a human operative working as a maintenance technician in the palace. The humans would know the Empire's plans before the sun rose on Zenthra Prime. The game continued, but only one side knew all the pieces on the board. The Imperial delegation approached the human flagship horizon with caution. Grand Vizier Korvex sat stiffly in the transport shuttle, flanked by military advisors and diplomats. Despite his outer calm, his inner hearts beat rapidly. Remember, he told his delegation, we are here to gather information, ask questions about their homeworld, their population numbers, their government structure. The Emperor needs this data. The shuttle docked smoothly with the human vessel. When the doors opened, Korvex was surprised to be greeted not by armed guards but by smiling humans in simple uniforms. Welcome aboard the Horizon, said Ambassador Lee. Please follow me. As they walked through the ship, the Imperial delegation exchanged confused glances. The human vessel was unlike any Imperial ship. Crew members of different ranks worked side by side. Some even questioned their superiors openly, suggesting alternative approaches to tasks. Most shocking of all, the humans seemed happy. Where are your slave races? Asked military advisor Drentox. Who performs the menial tasks? Commander Jackson, walking beside them, looked puzzled. We don't have slaves. All crew members are volunteers. We rotate duties so everyone understands all aspects of ship operations. Inefficient, muttered Drentox. Actually, said Jackson, our studies show it improves crew performance and innovation. When people understand the whole system, they find better solutions. They entered a large meeting room with windows overlooking space. Admiral Chen waited for them, standing rather than sitting on an elevated throne as an Imperial Admiral would. Grand Vizier, she said, extending her hand in, the human greeting custom. Thank you for coming. Korvex reluctantly touched her hand. The Emperor is considering your request for diplomatic relations. He requires more information about your species. Of course, said Chen. We have prepared a cultural exchange presentation. But first, would you join us for a meal? On Earth, sharing food is an important part of building trust. The meal that followed was unlike anything in Imperial protocol. Humans and Imperials sat at the same table. The human leaders served food themselves rather than having servants do it. And most strangely, they asked the Imperial visitors questions about their lives, their families, their personal interests, not just political matters. Korvex noticed how easily the humans switched between serious negotiation and casual conversation. It was disorienting, unsettling, yet also intriguing. After the meal, Ambassador Lee gave a presentation about Earth's history. She spoke openly of human wars, mistakes, environmental disasters, admitting weaknesses no Imperial would ever reveal. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times, she explained, but we learned from each crisis, we evolved. And your government structure? Asked Korvex. Who is your emperor? We have no emperor, said Lee. Different human nations have different systems, but most use some form of democracy. where leaders are chosen by citizens and serve limited terms. Drentox laughed. How can you maintain order if leaders are replaced so frequently? The system is stronger than any individual, Chen replied. No leader becomes too powerful. New leaders bring new ideas. It helps us adapt to changing conditions. Throughout the meeting, Corvex noticed small details that troubled him. The humans seemed to anticipate Imperial questions. They referred to specific Imperial concerns that had not been shared. And occasionally they used phrases from Imperial private communications. They were still being watched, still being studied. As the Imperial delegation returned to their systems, something extraordinary began happening throughout the Empire. On 12 key worlds, systems began failing in precise, coordinated patterns. On the military hub world Drax, Prime, defense grid power fluctuated wildly. On the communications center Thal Nexus, important transmissions became scrambled or rerouted to wrong destinations. On the government world Zenthra Prime itself, the palace security systems activated and deactivated randomly, forcing officials to use manual overrides. None of these failures were catastrophic. No one was injured, but they created confusion, disruption, and most importantly, fear. In the Imperial Security Headquarters, Velnara received reports from all 12 worlds simultaneously. It's them, she whispered. The humans. Her assistant checked the reports. But there are no human ships near any of these worlds, no attack signatures, no weapons fired. They don't need ships, Velnara realized. They're already here. Among us. She rushed to the Emperor's chambers, bypassing normal protocols. Emperor, she gasped. Operation Quicksilver has begun. What? The Emperor's scales paled. What? Is Operation Quicksilver? It's not our operation, Velnara explained. It's theirs, the humans. We intercepted communications between their agents. They've been positioning operatives on our key worlds for decades, and now they've activated them. The Emperor's private communication device chimed. On every screen, throughout the Empire, Admiral Chen's face appeared. People of the Galactic Empire, she said calmly. We could have attacked your worlds. Instead, we have shown restraint. Your Emperor is mobilizing the Starforge, a weapon that would destroy billions of lives, including those on his own border worlds. Ask yourselves, who truly threatens peace today? The transmission ended, leaving the Emperor staring at a blank screen. How did they access the Imperial Broadcast Network, he demanded. How do they know about the Starforge? It's our most classified weapon. On the industrial world Kraz 4, maintenance technician Reznar was having a strange day. For 5 years he had serviced the same power regulation systems without incident. Today his human co-worker Tel had called in sick, the first time ever, and now the systems were failing in ways Reznar had never seen. As he worked to restore power to the military shipyards, he noticed something odd about the control panel. A small device was attached underneath, almost invisible. When he touched it, it dissolved into dust. Across the Empire, similar discoveries were being made. Small devices planted years ago activated for a few hours and then self-destructed, leaving no evidence. The disruption stopped as mysteriously as they had begun. But the damage was done. The Empire had been shown its vulnerability. And worse, the Emperor's secret plans for the Starforge were now public knowledge. On border worlds, citizens began questioning Imperial decisions. Several recently conquered species saw an opportunity and declared independence. The empire that had ruled unchallenged for 10,000 years had been shaken not by weapons but by information, not by force but by exposure. And somewhere in deep space, Admiral Chen reviewed the success of Operation Quicksilver's first phase with satisfaction. The real work was just beginning. The massive Starforge installation hung in orbit around the dead star Nexus 7, its metal arms stretching out like a giant spider. Designed to harness the power of a dying star and redirect it as a weapon, it was the Empire's most closely guarded secret. Until now. Science Director Malthix supervised the final preparations with growing unease. The Emperor had ordered the weapon to be ready within 3 cycles, an almost impossible deadline. "Director," called out a technician, "we have an anomaly in Section 12. Mal Thix hurried over to the monitoring station. "What kind of anomaly?" "Energy, fluctuations, and—" The technician's voice dropped to a whisper. "Security detected unauthorized access to the main control systems 2 hours ago. The humans?" Mal Thix felt his scales turn pale. "We don't know. The intruder left no trace except for this." The technician showed him a small symbol that had briefly appeared on all screens throughout the facility, a simple earth tree with spreading branches. Mal Thix immediately ordered a complete security lockdown. As engineers began checking every system, his private communication device activated. The message was short. "Look at the stars." Puzzled, Mal Thix went to the observation deck. At first, he saw nothing unusual in the star field. Then he noticed it. A pulsar storm was forming at the edge of the system, a dangerous cosmic event that could destroy everything in its path. His device chimed again. "We can help." On the imperial capital Zenthra Prime, Emperor Zalvex VI faced growing unrest. News of the Starforge had spread throughout the Empire, despite all efforts to contain it. Reports came in hourly of protests on core worlds and outright rebellions on the outer systems. How could the humans have known about the Starforge? He demanded of Intelligence Director Velnara. "Who betrayed us?" "No one betrayed us, Emperor," she replied carefully. "At least, no one from our original species. We've confirmed that humans have been infiltrating Imperial society for decades. Some have undergone extensive biological modification to pass as Imperial citizens. Others have recruited allies among our subject races." The Emperor paced his throne room. "And these infiltrators, have we identified them?" "Some, yes. But they seem to be everywhere. From maintenance workers to mid-level officials, even—" She hesitated. "Even what?" The Emperor's voice was dangerous. "Even in the palace staff, Emperor. We discovered 3 yesterday." The Emperor stopped walking. "My personal staff? Impossible." "They were very well disguised, Emperor. One had served for 12 years without suspicion." The Emperor sank onto his throne. No wonder the humans knew his plans. They had been watching him, listening to him, for years. A communication officer burst into the throne room, breaking all protocol. "Emperor, urgent news from the Starforge." A pulsar storm was one of space's most destructive natural phenomena. The rapidly spinning neutron star emitted beams of radiation that could tear apart ships and even damage planets. The storm approaching. The Starforge facility was one of the largest ever recorded. Science Director Mal Thix had ordered evacuation, but thousands of personnel would still be caught in the storm's path. The Imperial rescue vessels couldn't reach them in time. That's when the human ships appeared. 5 vessels using the strange, phase-shifting technology materialized near the Starforge. Instead of attacking, they positioned themselves between the facility and the approaching storm. "This is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the UEA Defender," came a transmission. "We've detected the pulsar storm approaching your position. We can help evacuate your personnel and deploy our gravity shield to protect critical infrastructure." Mal Thix hesitated only briefly before accepting. Within hours, human shuttles were ferrying Imperial scientists and engineers to safety. Meanwhile, the 5 human ships created an energy field that bent the pulsar storm's radiation away from the Starforge. As Mal Thix watched from the emergency command center, he struggled to understand. Why are they helping us? This weapon was meant to destroy them. Lieutenant Kren Lar, one of his junior officers, answered quietly. Perhaps because they are not what the Emperor claims they are. Word of the humans' rescue mission spread quickly throughout the Empire. The official propaganda portraying humans as savage barbarians collapsed as citizens witnessed their actions. When recordings of human ships risking destruction to save Imperial lives reached the core worlds, public opinion shifted dramatically. On Zenthra Prime, the Emperor faced his High Council. "These humans are manipulating us," he insisted. "This rescue was a ploy to win support from our citizens." "Perhaps, Emperor," said High Counselor Vexnor. But it raises an important question. If they are the aggressors you claim, why save thousands of Imperial lives? Why not simply let the storm destroy our greatest weapon? They seek to divide us, the Emperor said. And it seems they have succeeded with you, Counselor. I seek only to understand, Emperor, as do many citizens. Your plan to use the Starforge would have sacrificed 5 border worlds, Imperial worlds with loyal citizens. Was that not revealed in the humans' broadcast? The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. You dare question my decisions? Not alone. Emperor. Vexnor stood tall. 7 members of the High Council request a formal review of your Starforge directive. It is our right under Imperial law. Traitors. The Emperor signaled his guards. Arrest them all. But the guards didn't move. Their captain stepped forward. Emperor, we cannot. The law is clear. Council members have immunity during formal reviews. For the first time in 10,000 years, an Emperor's direct order had been refused. Admiral Chen received the news aboard the Horizon. The fractures are spreading faster than we predicted, she told her officers. The Empire's structure was more brittle than it appeared. Ambassador Li nodded. Their entire society is built on absolute obedience and fear. Once citizens began questioning one imperial truth, they started questioning all of them. What about the rebel species in the outer systems? Asked Commander Jackson. We've made contact, said Lieutenant Commander Reyes. The Tellarites, Vortak, and Nezians have all declared independence. We've offered them protective status until they can establish proper defenses. Chen studied the reports. 3 High Lords from prominent imperial families had denounced the Emperor. 15 governor worlds had called for governmental reforms. The military was divided, with some fleet commanders remaining loyal to the Emperor while others supported the High Council. The Empire won't collapse completely, Chen said. That was never our goal, but it will transform. The question is, into what? And at what cost, added Li. Civil war is still possible, Chen nodded grimly. That's why our next step is so important. It's time for Operation Quicksilver's final phase. As the human fleet prepared to move, the Empire that had stood unchanged for 10,000 years continued to fracture from within. Not from the force of weapons, but from something far more powerful: ideas. 3 months had passed since the humans first appeared at the borders of the Empire. The Grand Palace on Zenthra Prime, once the unquestioned center of power for 10,000 years, now hosted a meeting unlike any in Imperial history. Representatives from 127 different species filled the Great Hall. Some were long-standing Imperial citizens, others newly independent. For the first time, they sat as equals, not as rulers and subjects. Emperor Zalvex VI was gone. After his attempted arrest of the High Council failed, he had retreated to his private fortress moon with loyal forces. Civil war seemed inevitable until a small human team bypassed his defenses and delivered evidence of his plans to sacrifice border worlds for personal power. His own guards had removed him from command. The new interim ruling council had invited all species to send representatives to discuss the future. High Counselor Vexnor, now serving as interim leader, addressed the assembly. For 10,000 years, the Empire believed strength came from order, control, and uniformity. Recent events have forced us to question this belief. We gather today not to maintain the past, but to create a new future. He gestured to the human delegation. Ambassador Li, would you address the assembly? Aisha Li approached the speaker's platform, the first non-imperial ever to stand there. Thank you, interim leader. 3 months ago, humanity arrived at your borders with a fleet. Many expected war. Instead, we offer partnership. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Humanity came late to the stars. Before we ventured beyond our solar system, we nearly destroyed ourselves through war, environmental damage, and rigid thinking. We learned painful lessons about power, diversity, and cooperation. The display shifted to show Earth's history, ancient wars, Nuclear weapons, climate disasters. We survived because we changed, Lee continued. We learned that societies grow stronger through diversity of thought, not uniformity. Progress comes from questioning old ways and finding new paths. And true civilization isn't measured by control over others, but by how we lift each other up. She looked around the Great Hall. When we discovered the Empire, we saw a powerful civilization trapped by its own success. For 10,000 years you conquered without challenge, so you stopped evolving. You believed different meant dangerous. We could have attacked. Operation Quicksilver gave us agents throughout your territory. Our phase shift technology gave us military advantage. But war would only create more suffering. Instead, we showed you another way. Vexnor spoke next. The Interim Council proposes a new structure, the Interstellar Commonwealth. Member worlds would maintain internal governance while sharing technology, resources, and defense. No species would rule over others. The hall erupted in discussion. Some representatives cheered, others protested. For a civilization built on absolute authority, the idea of shared power was revolutionary. In a quiet corner of the palace gardens, Admiral Chen met with Science Director Malthix, now serving on the Interim Council. Your proposal is gaining support, Chen said. Even among former Imperial hardliners, Malthix's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. The pulsar storm changed many minds. When humans risked their lives to save Imperial citizens, it became impossible to see you as enemies. How many worlds will join your Commonwealth? Asked Chen. At least 80 have committed. Another 30 are likely. Some outer systems prefer complete independence. And the Emperor's loyalists? Malthix sighed. Perhaps 20 worlds remain aligned with the old ways. There may be conflict, but without the Starforge, they lack the power to force reunification. The Starforge has been permanently disabled, Chen confirmed, and we've shared defense technology with Commonwealth worlds to prevent future weapons of that scale. They walked in silence for a moment before Malthix asked the question that had troubled him for months. You could have conquered us, why didn't you? Chen smiled. Because conquest was never our goal. Earth learned long ago that empires built on force eventually collapse. We wanted to help the Empire evolve before it destroyed itself, and took half the galaxy with it. And now? What does Earth want from this new Commonwealth? The same as everyone else. Peace, trade, the chance to explore and learn together. The galaxy is vast, Director Malthix. There are wonders beyond imagining, dangers we can only face together. The age of empires is ending. The age of cooperation has begun. 1 year later, the former Imperial Palace had been transformed into the Commonwealth Assembly Hall. Representatives from all member worlds came and went freely, without the elaborate protocols and hierarchies of the past. Young Reznar, once a maintenance technician on Kraz 4, now served as Ambassador Lee's assistant. As they prepared for the day's session, he still found human ways puzzling. I still don't understand, he admitted. You infiltrated the Empire completely. Your technology was superior. You could have taken control. Why offer partnership instead? Lee showed him historical records from Earth, world wars, environmental, disasters, failed empires. Because we've been where your empire was heading. We nearly destroyed ourselves through the same patterns of domination and control. We learned that true civilization isn't measured by power over others, but by how we lift each other up. The assembly hall filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Some were former Imperial citizens. Others were from species once classified as presentient and denied rights. Now all had a voice. Today marks the first anniversary of the Commonwealth, announced Chairperson Vexnor, no longer called High Counselor. And we have much to celebrate. Trade has increased 40% across member worlds. Scientific cooperation has yielded breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and environmental restoration. Most importantly, for the first time in 10,000 years, all citizens can speak freely, worship freely, and determine their own futures. We also announce our first joint exploration mission beyond the galaxy. A fleet of 500 ships, human, Zenthi, Vortak, Qualler, and dozens of other species will venture into the Andromeda Galaxy, not to conquer, but to discover. As the assembly cheered, Admiral Chen, now Commonwealth Defense Coordinator, watched with satisfaction. Thundaur. Former Empire had not just frozen in fear when humans arrived with their fleet. It had thawed, transformed, and grown into something far greater than its founders ever imagined. The future would bring new challenges, new threats, perhaps even new conflicts, but they would face them together, as equals. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other civilizations waited to be discovered, other lessons to be learned. The journey was just beginning.